nicely. Just for those of you who can't see what's going on, Anthony's wearing a suit. I am wearing a t-shirt, and that is how things are going these days. Anthony, we're gonna get started. Like we've got. It's interesting because you can't really say that the results this week have been the kind you want to write home about, but we do have a lot to talk about, so we're just going to get right to it. Anthony, and I hate putting you on the spot. If it were Ann, she would probably get mad at me for this, but I feel like you're not going to get mad. Puck drop topic, just throwing it out there. There are 15 games left this season for the Nashville Predators. Do you think the Predators are checked out?
Ooh, here's the best way I can put it.
Okay.
I put myself in a player's shoes, right?
Okay.
And obviously, I'm not in the NHL, nowhere near the NHL. AAA hockey is the farthest I was able to go. However,
That's okay.
putting myself in an NHL player's shoes, or well, more specifically, a Predators player's shoes right now.
What if you put yourself in their skates?
In their
There we
skates.
go.
That's
Okay.
right. Putting myself in a Predators player skates right now, I just find it so hard to see what you have to play for. Maybe.
Okay.
So if you're someone, say, like Stamkos,
Okay.
right, who's locked up contract wise,
Sure.
when you look at players with expiring contracts,
Okay.
that's when I would say that is someone who has something to play for their next contract, right? But
Okay,
when you
sure.
look at someone maybe like Saros right now, it's how do you look to tomorrow and say our motivation is, you don't have the playoff motivation, right?
Sure.
So, and the rebuild or, this offseason could still maybe go two ways. You don't really have that sort of, oh, the future right now looks set in stone, maybe like a team like Chicago or San Jose, where it's like we're excited about the future. The Preds still have a long way to go, I think. So I do think they're checked out.
Okay. So and this is something that again, let me just go. I have never played hockey.
Okay.
So when people want to say, you don't understand, you're right. I can barely skate. It's embarrassing. Okay. So here's what I'm going to say. I have a hard time believing that anyone playing at that high of a level can check out, but we know it's possible. Like you see it happen in a lot of sports. I think hockey players have just a different kind of pride in what they do. And when I think, as a player, and I know as a parent of a youth player, how much goes into, like, this is what you do every day from the time you're very young to get to this point. How do you then say, like, I'm going to phone this one in tonight? And so I have a hard time believing that they're checked out. What I think's going on, and I agree, there's going to be guys that are playing for contracts. There's going to be guys like Stamkos, who he's got a contract. It's a solid contract. He's made a lot of money playing hockey in his career. He's going to be okay. You have fans who are going to say, like, well, they're paying him money, they should be playing. I can see that too. But I think what you see is you're looking at frustration.
Yeah.
And I think it's frustration, and maybe it's masquerading as it looks like they're checked out. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that I have the right answer. But from my perspective, this looks like a group of guys. Some of these guys have lost teammates that they've grown used to seeing in the locker room and on the ice. They've lost friends. They've lost people. Yeah, Stamkos. I mean, I think Luke Schenn being in Nashville was one of the reasons he was excited about coming.
Yeah.
And now he's gone. There's got to be a level of frustration. Yes, it's a business. Yes, they know the business. But at the end of the day, they're still playing through that same frustration. You get to see it every night, or not every night, but every few nights on TV. Think about if you've worked with someone for years, you're happy to see them every day. You get used to them being there at work, and then all of a sudden they're gone. You have a hard time with it too. It's just not broadcast on TV every other day.
And I do think, though, we are starting to see, for the fans watching this team, that you are seeing the frustration on ice in a way now with the penalty minutes that are growing, but also, like, last game I put out a tweet about Luke Evangelista, and when one of the plays were over, he batted his stick on the ice in frustration, and the whole sound echoed throughout Bridgestone, and you heard it on the broadcast. And Mike McCarron, going through the tunnel.
Yeah, that
right.
And
you're starting to see it.
It plays out, and the beauty of hockey is that you do get to hit each other.
That's right.
And sometimes that's how they get those frustrations out. And you do see that turning into penalty minutes. So I think that's pretty fair analysis. I don't think that's anything ugly. I think you're just being realistic at this point. I think there are guys who are playing like, look, I know I'm probably not going to be here next season, but I bet I can make a good enough impression right now that someone else will pick me up and give me a chance. You look at someone like Kiefer Sherwood last season, who came in and played what I think really well for the Predators. I'm not going to say he didn't make a case to stick around this season. I think he made a pretty good case, but I think it came down to there was another team that wanted him more, and they took that opportunity, and he's made a name for himself in Vancouver. There's guys like that on the team this season. So we'll see what ends up happening with them.
That's right. And you look at a guy like even Kevin Lankinen, who took a bet on himself in the offseason. I'm not sure what the situation will be when Annunen is faced with the decision or what's going to happen there with Saros long term, but you can think there as well. Like, look what happens if you're going to see someone like Lankinen and Sherwood. That gives these guys motivation.
Sure.
Say, listen, I may not be back next season. You're right, but we know that if I play to the best of my abilities, I'm going to get a better contract or, a better place to play next season.
And at the end of the day, I think if you take those guys who are locked up and have great contracts, they're going to play for those guys.
Yep.
And so maybe we've resolved this. Maybe they're just frustrated. Well, what a
common ground.
What a nice conversation, Anthony. I'm very proud of us. So yeah, I think it's interesting. We look at the games over the last PBR week. There are three losses, 2 goals between those 3 losses. And I think it's funny because the reaction after last night's game against the Blues, very negative from a lot of people. And I don't think that last night's game is really an example of the previous 2. Those were close games. Yeah, there was just 1 goal scored by the Preds, but both of those games were 1-goal games where they lost by a goal.
That's right. And I think you said it perfectly before we got on the air that the other 2 games this week seem to be overshadowed by last night's game against the Blues. And you're right. Like, against Anaheim, a 2-1 loss, against LA, a 1-0 overtime loss. So those just kind of happen to be low scoring games, right? This is the NHL. Those games do happen, the 0-0. But until obviously yesterday, we saw the frustration grow. And I just wanted to touch on the fact yesterday, while we're on the fact of frustration,
sure.
There were now last night's game against St. Louis, 33 penalty minutes registered by the Predators. And that was a season high.
Wow.
Capping the 27 penalty minutes against the Rangers on March 2nd.
Okay.
Here's what I wanted to point out on the topic of frustration continuing to grow. Out of the top 10 penalty minutes by games this season, 8 out of the top 10 have now come since the beginning of February. It is March 19th.
Wow. So
8 out of 10.
That's really good statistical analysis.
Yeah.
You're looking at an overall increase in penalty minutes.
That's right.
I think, we've got a pretty packed show.
We do.
And there's some stuff I don't want to skip over. I do want to talk about Michael Bunting, but I think as we're moving into the next segment, the biggest thing I really want to focus on is you've got some problems. I think you're seeing now that the deadline's come and gone. This is you've gotten rid of the guys you don't see as a part of the team moving forward. You could get something for. Surely there's others that will not be back next season, but the problems you see now are the problems you need to fix. And these are the problems I think that I see with the team. We talked for the show. I think we're on the same page. Here's what we're seeing. You're seeing defense that needs some strengthening. Now there are a lot of key players out, but the defense has looked very weak. You need some offensive punch. You've got some scorers.
You do.
It's just not going in. Something's got to change there. And of course, as you so eloquently and statistically pointed out, penalty issues probably due to frustration. So the question that the Preds are going to have to look at is how do you address this in the offseason? What are the moves you're going to make as a general manager? And that's what we're going to discuss when we come back in. And of course, the Preds are looking at how they have to plan for their future. It's probably a complicated equation for them, but planning for your future, Anthony, doesn't have to be complicated. At Goldstone Financial Group, they help you create a personalized financial plan to secure your retirement, whether you're thinking about your 401k, IRA, or just want to invest smart. They've got you covered. Just like the Nashville Predators strategize for every game, Goldstone Financial strategizes for your financial success. Visit goldstonefinancialgroup.com today and start planning for tomorrow. If you're looking for a great place to catch a Preds game, I'd send you to Beyond the Edge in East Nashville. But you don't have to just take my word for it. Beyond the Edge has been voted the best sports bar for the second year in a row in the Scene Nashville Readers Poll. With more than 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap, you'll never miss any of the action. They've got great food, great drinks, and the perfect spot to watch the game. Visit them at 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville or online at beyondtheedge.net. Make Beyond the Edge your go-to for every big game. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio. If you're looking for your next night out, Stars and Strikes in Smyrna has something for everyone. Whether you're into bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, or their newly expanded arcade, the fun never stops. Plus, their full menu and bar make it the perfect spot for group events and birthday parties. Oh, and it's also a great place to catch a Predators game while you're there. Check them out at starsandstrikes.com. Green Ventures Landscaping transforms your outdoor dream into reality. Their family-owned team specializes in patio design, pool decks, retaining walls, and more. They create stunning landscapes that last with personalized service and expert craftsmanship. From irrigation to maintenance, they'll ensure your garden thrives, providing a space that's both functional and beautiful. Visit them at greenventureslandscaping.com today for a free quote. Let Green Ventures Landscaping cultivate your perfect outdoor sanctuary today. We are back, and I have to apologize to everybody out there watching. If you're listening, I think I described it perfectly well, but we didn't realize that Anthony's camera wasn't working. So now you can see that Anthony is dressed very nicely. He's got the sport coat on, button-up shirt, open collar, kind of a bold look for early spring, but it's okay. He's pulling it off, freshly tanned, and I'm over here looking like a tub of goo.
I was just going to say, I was in Mexico for the past week, so I'm
Sounds
still
terrible.
trying to
Ugh.
shake off the whole,
Ugh.
get into summer, because this week the weather in Nashville has been very inconsistent,
Very
I would
big
say.
letdown after being in Mexico.
Much
I'm
like
sure.
this season.
Oh boy. Well, let's get back to that. Very good transition. Very proud of you on that one. So
Thank you.
we said coming out of the last segment that the three biggest issues were defensive weaknesses, an underperforming offense, and a lot of penalties. So we wanted to talk on the way back in. How do you address this moving forward? Like we said, the trade deadline has come and gone. Barry Trotz has made all the moves he can make up until the end of the season. Free agency starts, which is a while. You still have 15 games to go, so you're going to get a really good chance to see what you've got, the holes you have, and how to address them. So, how do you, if you're the general manager, address these moving forward? I want to start with defense. And I do want to say, I think Brady Shea has endured a lot of criticism this season. I'm not saying that it's not all wrong, but I'm going to say that in Roman Yossi's absence, he's stepping up and he's doing a good job of leading, I think, on defense.
I think he's done an excellent job as well. And we heard, I want to say it was last week, as I pull it up, that Brady Shea was asked about what he's done to kind of be there for these younger defensemen, right? Because now he is that top guy filling Yossi's void with Schenn also gone.
Correct.
And he said, quote, "I'm the veteran guy back there now. Throughout the year, I think I've done a good job of answering questions for these guys and just talking to them." He also referred to himself as an open book.
Sure.
For the youth defenseman. He said, "I've been an open book throughout the whole season with these young guys. There are a bunch of young guys playing very well. I'm doing whatever I can to help them out. They've done a great job so far, and I'm always trying to get better in that aspect as well." That sounds like a push for leadership in the absence of Roman Josi.
It does. And I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that a lot of the leadership that they talk about when they talk about respecting another player as a leader happens out of the public eye, happens in the locker room, happens at practice. It's not just the 60 minutes you see them playing. Roman Josi, you got to get him healthy. He's got an upper body injury. He may not be back for the rest of the season. We'll assume he'll be back at the beginning of next season regardless. What I want to see next season, okay, if I'm talking about defense, is I want to see Roman Josi doing Roman Josi things on the first pairing.
Well, now we have the fact that whatever this injury could potentially be,
right?
Could we see him at that level that we've seen the Roman Josi level, right? Or is it time that maybe he takes a step down? Maybe the leadership still is up there,
Sure.
but his on-ice play is more so maybe a second line. And it's going to take the Predators maybe a bold move or a draft pick or, Tanner Molenbeek or, someone in the organization right now defensively to step up and be that talent, that next guy, because Josi is now in his 30s. He's, every year getting older and older. And when you look at the future of the defensive core, who is going to be that go-to defenseman or that go-to first pairing?
That's a great question. I don't know that they have someone in the organization. You mentioned Tanner Molenbeek, and I think that's a possibility, but that's not happening next year. I mean, even if he comes and plays, he's very young. He may not be ready for that kind of leap in competition and time spent on the ice. Roman Josi's been asked to do a lot. He has tons and tons of time on the ice for the past several seasons.
Well, Sean, this poses the question.
Okay.
If you're Barry Trotz on July 1st, do you go out and try and make maybe a bold trade for a top defenseman? Or is this something where we're going to say, maybe we sign a free agent and we stick with that, or even stick with trying to draft another high-end defenseman, what way, if you're Barry Trotz, are you going to go about this defensive void in the offseason?
Okay. So I personally, I think there's more need that you're going to have to find outside of the organization offensively. I think you've got guys in the defensive pipeline that can come in and play. Like I think Spencer Stastny can take a heavier role. I think Adam Wilsby, when he's healthy again, can take a bigger role. I hope Jeremy Lazan, when he comes back, can step back into his role. And I think you have some solid guys defensively within this organization already that you don't necessarily have to go out and make a bold. I'd rather see that happen on offense. That's where my focus would be. But I'd like to see Roman Josi doing Roman Josi things with a solid partner, maybe on the second pairing. But then I want to see Spencer Stastny do Roman Josi things.
That is a bold ask
well,
out of Stastny.
I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah.
He can skate very well. I'd like to see Tanner Molendijk doing Roman Josi things. These are the types of things I envision, right? But I think we need to talk about the offense
Badly.
mainly because this show is only an hour long. Correct.
Correct.
So
I just looked up at the time to see how we were doing.
We're rolling, man. There's a gaping hole on this team, and that's the offense. You've got to have a lights out, playmaking, high scoring center. That's every team needs that.
Do you think, real quick, without this high scoring center, do you see maybe the roster, the offensive roster, the way it looks right now, saying, listen, this is more of a chemistry thing. We came in on game 1 of this season with a lack of chemistry, and that was kind of figured out by game 5, that it was, this is not the Steven Stamkos, not even that we envisioned, but the fact that there is no chemistry here. And maybe, come next season, game 1, is this something where the chemistry has been developed throughout the season, or do you think it's just an issue where we need another high-end center to accompany the already, struggling offensive lineup right now?
Okay, I think that's a fair question. Let me say this. I want a young center who's born to be a center, not a slash center, not someone who's a forward slash center. Preds have tons of those. Historically speaking, it's just like they're all centers, but there's only 4 center spots. So I want somebody to come in and chemistry. Look, I think chemistry comes from anyone who can set guys up to score. I don't think chemistry is like, well, I don't like the way he talks, or I don't like his hair, or the way he, he does this thing after he's done talking where he clears his throat. I don't like that. It's, can this guy feed me the puck where I want it when I want it so I can put it where it needs to go?
What do you think about a playmaker, like a full-on playmaker center to accompany maybe Stamkos, Forsberg, Marchessault? Would that solve some of the issues for the offensive kind of drought we're seeing right now? Is someone that can set up Stamkos, Marchessault, Forsberg?
I think so. I think you need someone that can do that. And I think one of the biggest problems you've had this season is that there are guys, you take a Ryan O'Reilly, and he can do those things, but he is not, what did I say? My first thing was a young center, right? Ryan O'Reilly's not as young as he used to be.
He's a great leader. However, you're right. He's getting to this age where if this is a team that wants to make a deep run in the playoffs,
right,
I see him as C3, center on the third line. He's great in the room, one of the best leaders the Predators have. But you can't expect Ryan O'Reilly at the age he's at in his 30s to say, listen, we need you to be on the first line and set up Steven Stamkos, who's in his first season with the Predators, and score 3 goals a night.
I agree.
It's not realistic.
So how do you address that? I'm looking at the unrestricted free agent class that's coming up, and I'm not interested in anybody at center. I'm not even going to go through the list because this show is only an hour long. Restricted free agents. This is like, I'm not worried. Let's not worry about drafting someone and using their first round draft pick to draft someone. This is what I want to see happen. I want to see Barry Trotz talk about bold moves. I want to see him go try to pry away a restricted free agent or a pending restricted free agent from one of these teams. I want to see somebody like Marco Rossi
Ooh.
I want to see him pull him away from the Wild. I want him to tempt them with a first round draft pick, because you think you do all of this bad seasoning, you get a high pick in the first round, you're going to trade it away. Well, I want somebody that can come in and make a difference now. And I think Rossi's someone that I would like to see. I think he's poised to have a big year. And I think maybe the Wild have some other people they're going to have to focus on first that might open the door to Trotz being able to go in and lure him away.
And looking at Rossi, 40 points in 82 games last season, 53 and 68 this season. He's one of those youth players that I think is starting to grow into his own player and really excel in this league, almost at a point that maybe a change up coming to Nashville next season would solve even more of a production level for him, a change of scenery. Who knows if he would need it, but I think he would excel.
I'd like to see it. And of course, we've addressed offensive defense. Again, we don't have tons of time, but we've addressed offense and defense. And as Preds fans, we know the importance of playing both offense and defense. And at Goldstone Financial Group, they apply that same mindset to your retirement. They're not just about growing your assets, but also protecting them. With decades of experience, they can help you build a strategy that secures your financial future. Head to goldstonefinancialgroup.com to learn more and get your game plan in place. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio on 102.5 The Game. Stars and Strikes in Smyrna has everything you need for a fun-filled outing. Bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, and their huge new arcade. With a full menu and bar, it's also the perfect place to host birthday parties or group events. And if you're a Preds fan, you can catch the game while enjoying great food and drinks. Visit starsandstrikes.com. Start planning your next adventure. Anthony, let me tell you something I think is cool about Stars and Strikes. I think this is neat. You go there and you're bowling and you're like, well, if I'm bowling, how can I also watch the Preds game? They can project it right above the lanes. It's really cool. Nice big screen. You can throw the ball down the lane, score a strike, watch Philip Forsberg score a goal. It's really cool. It's a perfect combination of things. We're back, and I want to say we were discussing Marco Rossi on the way out, and I want to say, look, if the Wild aren't willing to part with Marco Rossi, and they may not be. I still feel like that, again, that's a bold move to me. It's going to cost you dearly, but I think the Preds have built up a lot of draft capital.
And we're going to need to see some bold moves like these other teams that are leaping out of this sort of rebuild phase. Chicago, San Jose, bold moves have been made. If the Predators want to get out of this kind of mediocre area that they've been in, bold moves are what Trotz is going to have to make.
So if you can't get Rossi, I have some other options. You could get JJ Peterka, or I think Gabriel Velarde. Kind of both similar situations. I'd still prefer Rossi over the other two, but I think those are other options if Rossi isn't available. Again, I am not the general manager of the team. These are just my ideas. So don't read into it and be like, so the Preds are interested. Look, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So
the point is a youth, forward.
You want a young center to kind of lead into the next season, and something that I think we do need to talk about that's happening next season as well. They just announced that the Preds are heading back to Europe. Anthony, you want to talk about that a little bit?
So yes, it was announced yesterday that the Predators will be going back to the Global Series, back to be a part of it. Correct. Against the Pittsburgh Penguins next season in Sweden.
Okay.
So that's something to look forward to as a Predators fan. The last time, I believe it was the 2022 season, 2022, I believe.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
So they're going back to the Global Series. That's definitely going to be a highlight. I think it's a good chance for the team to really bond. While they're there. And when the Predators last did this, it was the roster was still being narrowed down as they went. So you have almost this tense 4 or 5 extra guys, 1 extra goalie is coming with that won't be going back with the team. So that is always fun to watch.
I mean, he'll come back. I mean, they're not going to leave him over there. You're staying here.
Maybe come back. Maybe come back to another team. Not shut the door on them at the airport, unless
that'd be like a really weird reality show. It's like, hey, one of you guys is staying here, so you better learn Swedish.
I do have to say, though, there are some high quality pro leagues overseas, but not the NHL. NHL. Philip Forsberg made a comment about the Global Series. He said it's pretty special. Second to my hometown, Leksand.
Right.
It's the best place in the world. Stockholm is beautiful. It's a great city. He is excited to go home. We are excited to see what they provide in the Global Series against Pittsburgh.
Well, and of course, it's in Stockholm, and you can't forget the Stockholm Stallion. Adam Wilsby should be back and playing. So exciting for him, too. Forsberg says that Wilsby's got time on his hands right now, has to teach everybody Swedish. Do you know any Swedish?
None, not even how to say none in Swedish.
I know that if Ann were here, she can sing one song in Swedish, and this would be the time for her to do it. So, but I don't think either one of us wants to step up to the mic and do that right now. Look, the Preds have not been eliminated from playoff possibilities yet. I don't think it's too far away.
It would take another trip to a U2 concert.
Oh, or a canceled trip to a U2 concert, winning out the rest of the season and some other teams losing in several key moments. So let's talk about some other things. All right. Let's talk about hockey outside of Nashville. Now that we'll go ahead and say the Preds probably aren't going to the playoffs. Who do you want to see win? Who do you want to watch go on and have success in the playoffs?
I grew up in Chicago, a big Blackhawks fan during the Cup era, And looking at the Chicago Red Wings, as I like to put it, the Detroit Red Wings, to elaborate, with now Patrick Kane, Alex
Okay, I see
DeBrincat,
where this is
and
going.
in goal now Peter Mrazek, who
Okay.
played on Chicago. So, I'd love to see Kane make another deep playoff run. I was just looking at the standings. They're going to have to put up a fight to make it,
Yep.
but I can't,
Can't count them out.
you can't count them out. And that would be exciting to see Patrick Kane showtime with another playoff run, don't you think? Even though maybe not for you.
This
the
may not be
Preds
the
fan.
right city.
I will hold the Chicago fandom.
That's fine. You're
for
allowed to
that
do that.
city.
That's okay. I'll allow it. No, I think it'd be. I do. Here's the thing. As much as this is also probably not something to say in Nashville, I've enjoyed the Red Wings this season. I'm friends with some Red Wings fans, and we'll talk about how that team's doing and how things went after the coaching change and some of the players. It's been a good season for them, even if they don't end up making the playoffs. But it would be fun to see those guys make a run. Seems like a good group of guys that enjoy playing together. I personally, I've made no secret, Anthony. I'm still suffering from a case of Kachuk fever. The Four Nations face-off to me was probably one of the most exciting parts of this season, with the Pred season going the way it has. I really enjoyed, as an American, cheering for Team USA. And the biggest part of that for me was the Kachuk brothers. And I like Brady a lot. But Matthew is on the Florida Panthers, and having a friend that covers the Panthers, I follow them not super closely, but I see a lot of content for them. And look, they've got Matthew Kachuk. They just picked up Seth Jones, and they just picked up Brad Marchand. I mean, this should be a really fun team to watch when all those guys are playing together. And I think they could make a really deep run.
Sean, what do you think the first introduction between Kachuk and Marchand was, now that they're on the same team after the Four Nations altercation we saw?
I guess it's probably like a stare down, maybe a standoff for a while, and there's like a neutral zone they weren't allowed to go into, and like someone had to mediate between them.
They brought a referee in for the introduction.
All right, guys, like Michael Buffer showed up or something. I don't know. And then they were just like, okay, we're gonna have to shake hands. But I think they're professionals.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to enjoy being on the same team. What are some other things you're looking at this season that you want to see happen? Like
the Alex Ovechkin, the Great 8 chase.
Okay.
I think we're now getting into the territory where we could discuss it as a realistic possibility that Ovi passes Gretzky for most goals of all time this season, right?
And that
so
seemed insane to think of at the beginning of the season, but he has just outperformed. I think it happens.
And coming into the season, it was kind of more so this team is getting older.
Yeah.
Like how's the season gonna go? Are we gonna need to start maybe even age out, right?
Yeah.
Keep Ovi, but some of the older guys. And then all of a sudden 15 losses in 60 minutes this season to date. That's pretty shocking.
I think he makes it. I think he has to make it. I think
has to.
If you get within 2 or 3 and then the season ends,
how do you go about your off season?
Just give the man the puck,
Right.
pull, just have the goalie be like, look, if he scores it on me, then I get to be part of the highlight reel.
An honor.
Yeah. So let's just, maybe some things happen on the last couple of games of the season. I'm willing to look the other way if you are, right?
Right.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. We asked a question on Twitter or X, and we said, what move would you have wanted Barry Trotz to make now the trade deadline's over? We had one response, which I'm not sure what to make of the fact that there was only one response. I don't know if that says more about us or about the team's performance right now. It could be us. You're dressed in a suit, but I'm not. So here's the thing. They said they would have liked to have traded Michael McCarron. He's a very large man. He's very big, huge.
The Matt Rempe of Nashville, as you know, I like to say. I know. I get the heat for that.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I like hits.
Well, I like hits too. But here's the thing. Let's skip that one and let's go on to, if you could steal one person from any player. Don't worry about contracts. Don't worry about age. Don't worry about whatever. You can steal one player from any team that you believe would come in and have the most immediate impact on this team. Who would it be and why? And you can go offense or defense. It doesn't matter.
I'm living in delusion with Wyatt Johnston from Dallas.
Okay. Tell me why Wyatt Johnston from Dallas.
Can you imagine the Nashville Predators bringing on a 21-year-old that's almost at a point per game pace with 62 points in 67 games this season? It would propel the Nashville Predators set into the right direction with more offensive stability, as we talked about, that he could come into that second line center.
Sure.
As I'm saying this, why not try Barry Trotz in the offseason? Go get Wyatt Johnston.
Hey, go get him.
Get him.
Bold moves.
You have to be bold.
I'm gonna say,
if you're this team,
and this is fantasy land here, obviously, but let's not forget we've got Tkachuk fever. I want to say, I do. I want to say, let's bring in Brady Tkachuk. He plays with an intensity that the Preds seem to want. He can score goals, and he likes to stir stuff up. And I think that's
something
that's what they need. All of that in one person, like the holy trinity of hockey player for me is can score goals, brings a lot of intensity, willing to stir stuff up. That's what I want to see. What about defense?
More delusion. Lane Hutson
of
the Montreal Canadiens, another young guy. He registered so far this season 48 assists in 67 games, Sean, at 20 years old.
That's insane.
Crazy. Can you imagine a Predators roster with both Johnston and Hudson in the lineup? Production would flourish because now you have on defense Hudson, who we were just talking about, getting someone who can set up,
do Roman Josi things. Not
only that, but set up these offensive guys, and the Roman Josi things. Hudson's your guy.
Look, I'm going to just say, if you could get both of those guys, that would be just a commitment to winning on the ice. And just like the Predators would want to be committed to winning on ice and something like that, Goldstone Financial Group is committed to helping you win with your retirement planning. From tax strategies to investment advice, they make sure you're prepared for whatever comes next. Don't leave your financial future up to chance. Trust the experts at Goldstone Financial Group. Check them out at goldstonefinancialgroup.com and set yourself up for success. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio on 102.5 The Game. Beyond the Edge Sports Bar in East Nashville has just been voted best sports bar in the Scene Nashville's Readers Poll. So if you're looking for the best spot to catch every Preds game, head over to Beyond the Edge. With over 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap, you'll never miss a moment. It's the perfect place to relax with friends, grab some great food, and watch your favorite teams. Visit them at 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville, or check them out online at beyondtheedge.net. Beyond the Edge, where every seat is the best seat in the house. Okay, if you are listening live, you got to hear Straight Outta Compton coming back in, which is clearly a song written about me. No, I'm kidding. Anthony, we've reached the part of the show where we make predictions. And before we get into this week's predictions, we do need to revisit last week's predictions. But I will point out, Ann was the one making a prediction last week, not you. So you don't have to take credit for this one. Although I will say, Ann's prediction was correct. Ann said that the Preds were going to have some trouble with Anaheim, and she was exactly right. They lost. And producer Brandon last week picked Ann's prediction to be correct. So I'll point out, and I'm saying this now for a very pointed reason, that Brandon is 3 for 3 on choosing right, and that's impressive. That's way better odds than everybody else has been at being right. My prediction was 100% wrong. I predicted that Michael Bunting would join the lineup and have a performance that makes Pittsburgh fans miss him, much like, for some reason, Mark Jankowski has become an offensive monster in Carolina. This did not happen. I mean, Bunting did make his debut as a Pred, and I'm not going to say that it was unsuccessful. I think he showed a lot of what we talked about when we were live a couple of weeks ago and we found out about that trade happening. Bunting, you can see flashes that he's not afraid to go to the front of the net. He can get under people's skin. I think he's the kind of player, especially with Luke Schenn going out, he's an agitator, and he's willing to play that role. I think the goals will come, but he did not have the debut that I thought he would. So good on producer Brandon last week for choosing Ann and being, again, 3 for 3. But now we have to make new predictions. And the fun thing here is that our producer, who is not producer Brandon tonight, it's producer Parker, he's got to choose. And so now he's got a lot of pressure because let's be honest here. He's coming in with heavy expectations because our producer's been spot on now since we started doing this. So no pressure, Parker. We're going to make some predictions, and I hope you choose right. Now, I want to point out, choosing right doesn't mean that you just choose me because I'm hosting the show, right? You don't have to do that.
That's right.
You don't have to do it. And if Ann were here, she would really try to convince you that you needed to vote for her. I'm not into that. I don't do that. So we'll make our predictions. We'll let you choose. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Anthony, you're up first. Let's hear your prediction. Now, again, this prediction is for the next PBR week, which is Wednesday to Wednesday. There will be 4 games between now and the next show. The Preds will play the Anaheim Ducks again. They'll play Toronto. They'll play St. Louis again, and they'll get to see new offensive powerhouse Mark Jankowski playing with his new team, the Carolina Hurricanes.
So my last prediction was very bold.
It was bold
and specific, and he did not choose mine, producer. No. Rightfully so. I don't really blame him. I was pointing to you as like to vote for yours that day, if you don't remember. But
I do.
My prediction this week, Parker, I think you're gonna want to stick with this one. I'm going to take the safe route with a loss against Anaheim again. Okay. Just having a 2-1 loss, we're going to come in, and I'm thinking 3-1, 4-1 tomorrow night again.
Okay. Yikes.
So, but I'm not going to get into the scores.
No.
I'm going to go loss against the Ducks.
Okay.
Loss against Toronto on Saturday.
Okay.
A revenge victory against St. Louis.
Okay.
And a loss against Caroline. Here is my sort of the bump in the road with my prediction.
Get too specific again.
I got specific, but I have to be because it would be so fitting this season if Mark Jankowski happened to score against the Predators.
Yeah.
I just, it's going to happen. I really do feel it. It's just going to be that one last punch in the face.
I recall
Jankowski will score.
I recall that Jankowski was responsible in his first year with the Predators for scoring the game-winning goal against his former team once. I remember asking about it in the locker room, and he was pretty excited. So
you're just giving me ammo for this one, by the way.
There may be some motivation from him there too. Okay, well, usually I would say point out some of the finer points of your prediction, but let me tell you mine. Because it's almost the exact opposite. I am predicting a big PBR week for the Nashville Predators. I say that they're going to go 3-1.
Bold.
That's a bold prediction.
Bold
It's a bold prediction. But I'm not going to get specific. I just say they're going to win 3 games. They'll lose one. I don't know which team. It doesn't matter in my prediction. But I will say that one of those wins will be by a large margin. One of those scoring romps where it's like 6-1 or 7-1. So that's my prediction. You have anything to add? Do you want to say anything before we let Parker vote?
I will say that you were very non-specific, very broad on your prediction. That is criticism, and here's why. I think
you're trying to goad me into getting more specific.
I'm trying to be like what I think Barry Trotz should do in this offseason is be bold.
Okay.
Barry, I hope you're listening. Model the offseason after me. If I predict Mark Jankowski to come in and score against his former team, then maybe we should try for Wyatt Johnston.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so Parker, producer Parker, which sounds kind of weird to say. Don't want to use the initials there.
Yeah, PP.
Yeah, power play.
We can avoid that.
We could call you Triple P.
Here's the thing. It's hard for me to believe that this team is going to go 3-1 in the next 4.
Thank you.
So I think I'm going to go with Anthony on this one.
Not a lot of deliberation.
No pressure, right?
Parker,
no pressure, right, for me to get this one wrong. But
Parker,
that's true.
Feeling pretty good about this one.
What's your take on Jankowski scoring against the Preds?
Does it happen? Does he score the game winner against
the one final
game winner?
Yeah, or does he score against?
I said just score.
I think he could score. Yeah, the game winner though. That's really bold. But
that would be the feather in your cap. Right
there. I just think Jankowski even scoring against the Preds after the trade would just be the final punch to a very punchful season.
I can see it. I can see it.
I await the fan response if that happens. So
Twitter will be ready.
Twitter will be ready. So I want to say this. We've got a little bit of time before we need to head out. I will say, look. We were talking about this. Anthony could smell barbecue on me when I came in. We were talking about barbecue. I went to a barbecue place I'd never been to before. And I just wanted to say, I went to Better Days Barbecue in Smyrna, Tennessee. It's on Old Nashville Highway in the same shopping center as the Food Lion. Outstanding brisket. I love brisket. Anthony, you said you like barbecued chicken more so than brisket, correct?
Honestly, depends where I'm at. I'm going to have to check out this place for
check it out. Yeah. It's really good. The prices were great. I got 3 sliders and they let me have all different kinds of sauces. So they do something really cool there I've never seen at a barbecue place, and you can get a side of queso to put on your barbecue, which I had never considered.
Did you try it?
I tried it.
How was it?
It was delightful.
I'm going to check it out.
They have a really good Alabama white sauce. I was really impressed. Better Days Barbecue. It's in Smyrna. They are not a sponsor. It's not somebody that's paying me money to talk about them. You go somewhere, you have a good meal, you like to talk about it. So I'm doing that now. So that being said, thanks for listening to Penalty Box Radio live on 102.5 The Game, presented by Goldstone Financial Group. If you want smart investing with a company with a proven track record of fiduciary responsibility, look no further than Goldstone Financial Group. Also, thanks to Stars and Strikes of Smyrna, Beyond the Edge East Nashville, and of course, Green Ventures Landscaping. Anthony, thank you for being here, and we will see you again next week.